Sorry, that just changed.
Okay.
How's it going? Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get started in just a minute.
Microphones are.
Okay, is everybody ready? I know we have some community members that, yeah, please come in and make yourselves comfortable. We were going to close this to the public, but there was obviously overwhelming demand, and I think I've tried to build this administration on transparency, so was more than happy to have the public here. So thank you for coming. Anybody else outside? Jafet, good to go? Okay. Okay, wonderful. You guys all recording? We'll get going. Okay, well, thank you all for being here today. I'm City Manager Mike Gonzalez. Appreciate you being here. As many of you know, ICE agents are currently conducting operations in Sunnyside and the Lower Valley in our region. We're a community with deep ties to agricultural. We're a vibrant Latino community. This has understandably caused a lot of concern, frustration, and fear amongst our residents. We know that operations like these can disrupt our community, sow fear, and make it harder for people to trust local law enforcement or access the services that they so desperately need. Let me be clear, as a city, we have no control over federal operations. What we can control are our own actions and our commitment to our residents. Sunnyside will continue to stand by its position of not assisting ICE in these operations This approach has allowed us to earn and maintain the trust of our community, a trust that is vital for public safety and for fostering a strong, united Sunnyside. The federal authorities urge us to relax and trust the process, but we know that's easier said than done when fear and uncertainty can ripple through our neighborhoods. So I urge everyone, stay calm, stay informed, and take care of one another. Let's show resilience and strength that defines Sunnyside. And as someone who's been out there, we really ask all the journalists to paint a clear picture of what's happening. And we certainly appreciate your efforts as well. With that being said, I want to turn it over to Chief Lehman.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. What I want to reiterate is that the Sunnyside Police Department does not cooperate with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or HSI as they're also known. It is actually a state law. It's RCW 1093-160 that was passed in 2019 that doesn't allow us to work with ICE, is how it's defined there in that law. And we don't provide them information either. So I didn't know they were operating in Sunnyside yesterday until I saw it on Facebook and started getting some phone calls. They don't notify us ahead of time, and they operate independently of us. We have no role in their operations, and our officers do not carry a federal commission. What laws that they're trying to enforce are federal laws. Our officers can't enforce federal laws anyway. If there's a federal drug trafficking case, our officers can't send that to a federal court. They don't have that authority. We are state commissioned law enforcement officers. We enforce local and state laws only. So.
All right. Thank you, Chief. I wanted to turn it over to our Mayor, Dean Broersma.
Yeah, thank you. And again, and welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. What the manager said and what the chief has said, I'd like to add to that the Sunnyside City Council has a lot of responsibilities, and none of those responsibilities include being concerned about the city residents' legal status in our country. It is not something that we have dealt with. City Council does not have this on its agenda. So we are not involved in this at all. I found out the same way everybody else did on Facebook when I saw the videos, and I checked very carefully. I had some skepticism on that, so I called the chief. He did inform me this morning that, yeah, it is actually a legitimate ICE operation. But this is something that caught us all off guard. We had no idea that these were going to be happening prior to their happening. So when I saw it on Facebook, I was as surprised as everybody else. But this is not an area of interest for the Sunnyside City Council that we are concerned about people's status. We're not going to be investigating. We're not going to be checking into that sort of thing. And as far as city staff goes too, they're not interested in checking out people's status. Okay, we want to provide services, water, sewer, good streets and that sort of stuff. That's what we're interested in. If you're late paying your utility bill, we're not going to check your status. We're going to send you a bill. So with that being said, I don't know if our deputy mayor, Mr. Galvan, or Councilor Frausto would like to add to that, but certainly turn it over to them if they'd like to make a comment.
You want to make a comment, Spanish?
You can go first.
So thank you everyone for being here, and I truly understand that your concerns with ICE being in Sunnyside, and like the city manager and mayor and Chief Lehman said, we're not concerned with immigration status. We don't participate in these raids. Just like Chief Lehman said, he didn't even know they were going on. So just take precautions, know your rights. There's a lot of information online where you could read up on what your rights are, and definitely, just look out for each other and, hang in there. This will blow over, hopefully. Councilor.
Anybody else have anything to add?
No, Councilor, go ahead.
Okay. Not used to sitting on this side. Okay. ¿Sí me escuchan? Todos me pueden, no? Okay. Look, the word fear is definitely something that we're all living, especially those who don't have documented status in our community. I, as a city council member, and I want to make sure that I just think about my words, because every word that I say, every word that anybody says in the community, on social media, is not taken lightly. And it shouldn't be taken lightly because we are living in a state of emergency. It's really urgent when we know that our neighbors, our aunts, our uncles, our cousins are really living in a state of fear because of their existence. This isn't fair. This is not something that will blow over because it's never blown over. It's throughout the course of history, many members of community have been targeted because of who they are. And how they live. And it is unfortunate because we live in a community where many of our migrants, immigrants, undocumented or documented, are really the driving force of our community, and really they are the heart of Sunnyside. It was unfortunate for me and really quite disheartening to watch the video of yesterday that was circulating around of just the active arrests that were being made outside of Fiesta Foods. It's emotional for me because when I see that, I see my mom, I see a tia, I see a prima, right? I see all of us. That, the first thing I thought was, does this señora have kids at home? What are those kids going to do now, right? We've been watching this unfold before our eyes for quite some time. The separation of family is not something I condone. It's not something I'll ever get behind. But I have to be here and I have to express my stance. I have to express maybe even how I can, as a council member, use my platform to continue educating and informing you all of your rights. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to sit here and try to give legal advice because I want to be very careful. We have to all be very careful because I want you all to have the right information. Lo que sí les puedo decir es que tienen derechos. Ustedes tienen derechos. Tienen derechos to, you have the right to remain silent, okay? Nobody can search your home or your car without a valid warrant coming from a court. So we have to understand the documents that are being presented to you. Comprendan los documentos que les están presentando. No cualquier persona puede invadir sus casas, sus hogares, sus carros, sus casas personales sin tener una forma, un documento de un juez o de una corte. So, sepan sus derechos. Hay muchas organizaciones en estas comunidades que están ofreciendo recursos. There's Wizen that is local here in our community and across the state. There's NIRP, Northwest Immigration Rights Project. Please, someone correct me if I'm getting that wrong. I do commit to continue working with local organizations like EYA, like NIRP, like Wizen, to make sure that we are informing the community of los derechos. So yo sí me comprometo en eso de seguir trabajando con organizaciones locales como Wizen, como EYA, como NIRP, con abogados para poder informarles de sus derechos y qué vamos a estar pudiendo estar haciendo aquí como el concilio, que las organizaciones van a estar poder haciendo para ustedes, para mantenerlos a tanto con la información basada en actos reales, ¿verdad? Información basada en la verdad, porque ustedes tienen todo ese derecho, ¿verdad? En que nosotros estemos monitorizando toda la información que viene de la ciudad, la información que viene de las organizaciones, para que de veras ustedes tengan la información actual y justa de todos los derechos que ustedes también cargan y todo lo que está pasando en la comunidad y cómo nosotros vamos a seguir pudiendo ayudarlos y apoyarlos durante estos tiempos tan dificultosos. Yo me preocupo mucho por la seguridad de los miembros de mi comunidad y me comprometo otra vez en hacer un recurso. Si tienen preguntas, mi número, my email, if you guys have any questions, my email, my number is on the city website. Por favor, llámenme a cualquier hora. Mándenme un correo electrónico si tienen cualquier pregunta. Si yo no tengo la respuesta, yo directamente voy a decir no tengo la respuesta, pero voy a hacer todo en mi poder para poder agarrarles esas respuestas a sus preguntas, ¿ok? Es lo que podemos hacer como una comunidad. We have to look out for one another. It is a hard time. I want to honor that. I want to validate everybody's experience. And I'm really glad that we have a community turnout. I am sorry that it is under these circumstances. Nobody should be. I hope that nobody's ever in our chambers, and hopefully one day that can be true, with concerns about their livelihood. Okay, it's not a good feeling. And I try to keep my emotions out of this, but I am human, and I cannot when I know that community members are under attack. And that's the way that I feel. And that my own family members, people that I love, aren't feeling like they can't even come out of their homes right now because they don't know what's going to happen as soon as they get out of their home and into their car and maybe onto their next destination. So it is with a very heavy heart that I sit here and I really extend the resources that I'm able to extend at this given time, which are not many, or maybe the ones that you all want to hear or want to believe are true. This is as much as I can do, but it's not all that I can do. So we're going to continue working together in collaboration with our city manager. And I really want to extend a big thank you, Mike, for your leadership in the communications that you have been providing to the city. This work isn't perfect. We're not always going to get it right, but we are going to definitely try to be as transparent and open with anything that's going on in the community. And so I really, really applaud your efforts in that. And Chief, thank you for all the information that you shared. So with that said, I'm going to leave it here. There was something else that I was going to mention, but it'll probably come up here in a little bit.
And Counselor, I thank you so much for that. And I did want to tell the public that you and I have been talking this morning and over the past couple of days that after this meeting, we're going to get stakeholders together that we can learn about the resources, and we as a city can facilitate those resources, whether they're in our lobby. And I also want to apologize to the public that we didn't have a translator. It was such a short timeline that we couldn't get one. They're booked out, weeks and months in advance. And, and quite frankly, a lot of people were in my ear saying, maybe you shouldn't have this press conference. Don't wade into this, Mike. You're outside your lane. And, and Councilor Frausto and I talked over the weekend, Deputy Mayor, and quite a bit of discussion with all the council members. But, I saw a good statement yesterday. MLK says the time is always right to do what is right. And I just feel like if they want to criticize us for taking a stance, I'll take the shots. But saying nothing, I don't think we as a city, we can do that. So,
Mike.
Go ahead.
Oh,
No, I was done. No,
okay.
that's good.
I remember what I wanted to say. And I know that we have media outlets here in the room, and really my ask of y'all is to, in a moment where there is so much misinformation being sent all over social media, all over, our text, phones. I urge y'all to really, really do your due diligence in being the bridge between false and the truth, okay? Between misinformation and hate speech with the truth. Y'all will be the bridge between fear-mongering and the truth. And I really, really urge you all to do your due diligence, get the facts, please don't, we have to be very careful on even just the headlines. You know, this is not just about a read, it's not just about a click, but we really have to do our due diligence to make sure that we are truly that bridge between sending out the factual information to our constituents and not perpetuating a lot of the fear mongering, the scapegoating, you know, the profiling, you name it. We really have to do our due diligence in making sure that we are getting factual information out and we're not stuck on just a headline, because these are people's lives that we're dealing with. These are families that we're dealing with. So it is really, really my ask to make sure that y'all get, you know, all of the information before it is sent out, because once we click that button, it is out in the meta universe and we cannot take it back. And it is, I mean, and everything that we send out really helps somebody else formulate a thought or a belief. So please, let's all just be really, really responsible how we move forward with our communications, especially during this time.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Councilor Fausto. And we are going to open it up to questions from the media. So if you can raise your hand, and I'll kind of be the arbitrator of that, and you know, ask your specific question. If you can address the specific counselor or police chief, if you'd like to speak to them. So go ahead, Gilbert.
Buenas tardes. Soy Gilberto
Buenas tardes.
Lanís, director y vicepresidente de Seymour Radio Cadena. Estamos aquí para educar a la comunidad en lo que está pasando con el ICE. Y por favor, si necesitan información, llamen a Radio Cadena para poder nosotros trabajar con ustedes, el público y las ciudades, para mejorar la situación que tenemos aquí. Con eso me despido yo y les doy todo el apoyo a todos ustedes. Y ojalá que para adelante todas las otras ciudades hagan lo mismo que están haciendo ustedes, Mike. Me da mucho gusto que tienen ese valor y al mismo tiempo tener la paciencia para trabajar en esta situación que tenemos. Pero es una situación muy, muy importante y con cuidado queremos hacer todo en Radio Cadena y Seymour. Con eso me despido y muchísimas gracias.
Gracias por
Gracias.
venir.
Gracias por la información.
Thank you. Do you guys want to give kind of the Cliff Notes version of that and of what Gilbert said?
Can you translate it?
Please, yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yes. ¿Me puede repetir su nombre? Gilberto Alanís. Oh, muchas gracias. Mucho gusto. Vicky Frausto. Gilberto Alanís is here with Radio Cadena, Radio KDNA. He is here to offer resources, support on how to inform our community of their rights and current ICE raids, ICE sightings. So if you all have any questions, he's also extending a hand that they're willing to collaborate with the city. If any community members have any questions, please reach out to Radio Cadena yourselves. They will be there to provide as much factual information as possible.
Thank you. And that's one thing. We appreciate Gilbert being here, and Francisco. Something we're going to really start being more intentional about is working with Cadena, and appreciate it. Go ahead.
Yes. Buenas tardes a todos.
Oh, okay.
Por la información que nos están dando. Mi nombre es Angelita Morini, yo soy una residente de aquí de Sunnyside. Y yo me gustaría preguntar así, ¿en dónde puedo ver información? Y por ejemplo, la inmigración viene, la ICE viene a una propiedad, ¿y cómo uno puede impedir de que nos entren a esa propiedad privada de aquí?
Do you want to answer that?
You know, I was thinking about what I was going to say to the public, because si tú hablas español, tú quieres hablar con nosotros, viene al micrófono, tú puedes hablar un tiempo más. Adelante aquí al micrófono. Yo quiero todas las personas oírte.
¿Sí se siente a gusto con hablar en el micrófono? ¿Sí?
Gracias.
Okay.
Okay, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Angelita Marín y yo soy una residente de aquí de Sunnyside. Y yo nada más
Mi pregunta sería de que, ¿en dónde puedo agarrar información? Por ejemplo, si viene la ICE a una propiedad privada y quiere entrar, en dónde yo busco esa información? Y si yo tengo el derecho de decirle que aquí no pueden entrar.
Yo vi alguno de esa información por Facebook en WhatsApp Sunnyside. Y también ese caballero de Radio Cadena dijo que iba a dar informaciones también acerca de lo que tienen de derecho y pueden hacer. Para reportar, sale siempre más rápido por Facebook la información, pero yo no sé dónde más, si Ms. Frausto sabe algo que no sé yo, pero...
Okay.
Ya, yo puedo responder esa pregunta. Veo gente de aquí que es parte de Wizen. No sé si ustedes se sentirían comfortable to maybe address her question at the microphone, or I can do it.
Or perhaps after the meeting today, you would be able to...
Yeah.
Quizá después de la reunión puede preguntarle a esa gente
Okay.
también
Okay.
y Councilor Frausto quizá puede ponerles en contacto para que se
Muchas
conozcan.
gracias.
Le podemos dar más información. Again, Wizen is a really good resource. También tengo el número de teléfono para darle más información sobre eso. Lo que puedo decir de unos entrenamientos que yo he atendido, que atendí, de hecho, el sábado, es que no tienen que abrir la puerta. No abran la puerta, ¿ok? No abran la puerta a nadie. Si ellos no pueden entrar, lo dije hace un momentito, no pueden entrar a sus casas sin una orden del juez o de la corte para revisar sus casas, sus carros, cosas personales. No abran la puerta, no tienen que abrir la puerta a nadie. Usted misma le puede decir, tienes una orden de la corte, pásamele por debajo de la puerta si es que la tienes, pero no tienen que abrir esa puerta. Le podemos dar más información porque aquí hay gente que miro que son más expertos en esta área. Yo vine de un entrenamiento de este fin de semana, pero es lo que le puedo decir, que por seguro no tiene que abrir la puerta, no la abra. Okay?
Muchas gracias.
Okay, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, I apologize. It is really difficult to interpret for yourself because once you get to the end of your statement, you've forgotten what you said exactly, and so it's really a challenge. So I apologize for that. She was asking what steps a person can take if the ICE agents appear at your door and what kind of rights they have. And Ms. Frausto was trying to explain at least one right that they have, and there's other people in the room who can give better and more complete information, and we'll try to get those folks in touch with each other.
Señor, ella fue al próximo persona.
Okay, yeah.
Gracias. Emily, if you don't mind, because it would lend clarity. Thanks.
Hi, this is Emily Goodell with Apple Valley News Now. My question is, you have stated definitively what you will not be doing, which is cooperating in the ICE raids. However, I was wondering if you could expand on what you will be doing to protect residents who may be affected by this increased enforcement.
Well, I'll leave that to Chief Lehman.
Well, they have the authority to operate in the city of Sunnyside. We can't stop them. So it's a hands-off approach. We can't go obstruct their law enforcement operation, but we're not going to be there to help them either. Yesterday, my main concern was they're running around here in undercover trucks, picking people up and making traffic stops. So what I did, I didn't have a contact at HSI. I called the FBI, who put me in contact with HSI. And I said, hey, are your guys out or not? Because I've got undercover trucks contacting people in Sunnyside. And he confirmed, yes, that's us. I said, okay. And that's as far as that conversation went. But that's my concern. If somebody's posing to be law enforcement or something like that, that would be a concern of ours that we would get involved in.
To clarify my question specifically, not necessarily interference in ICE operations or trying to stop it from happening, but what resources the city might be able to provide to people or families who are being affected after something like this has happened.
And I can address that, and I'm going to work with Councilor Frausto and her contacts in the community, and then stakeholders who want to be part of information gathering that we can disseminate. So my vision with that is if we can create a website that's connected to our website with resources in both English and Spanish, and then also for people who want to come to our lobby, because it's very well used and accessible, to have some literature there as well. And then obviously if our media partners can share those, kind of leverage those relationships. So I think it's going to be a group effort. And Counselor, anything you want to add to that equation?
Echoing just what you said, we are going to be working, like I said, and I name dropped some of these organizations, continuing collaboration and partnership with Wizen, with NERP, with AYA, with the ACLU of Washington as well. Just had a phone call with them this morning, really on briefing us on any what our abilities are, what we're actually able to do, what our parameters are around this, to be able to ensure the safety for community members and what we could even do along the way. So that's up and coming. We're really determined and committed to establishing a game plan, an actual plan on what we do during any other future potential ICE activity or raids that may or may not happen in our community. So we're committed to establishing that plan, and as soon as that plan is in place, we'll definitely be informing the community of what that looks like and how we as a collective can jump in on really establishing some safety nets. And see what we can definitely do. So I hope I can have more of an answer and a clear pathway for you soon, Emily. Thank you for that question.
I did have a quick follow-up question for the chief. You were talking about how you were informed that there were, these undercover vehicles that were going around. How can Sunnyside residents tell the difference between maybe someone who's from your department who is pulling them over versus someone who is from ICE pulling them over, especially if they're wearing a vest that says police on it?
All of our cars are marked. We do have some unmarked cars, but traditionally those do not do traffic stops. However, I will urge you to, if a car is behind you and turns on red and blue lights, do please stop. That puts the public in a lot more danger if you decide to run or something like that, regardless of who it is. My message to the public is always comply with the law enforcement officer's direct order. And whether you think that direct order is accurate or not, you can always fight that in court, but you don't want to get into a fight with them because you don't agree with whatever action they're taking. The court's the avenue for that. So
Thank you all for your answers.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else from the media? Dale, yes.
Sí, por favor, sí. Muchísimas gracias, Mike, el cónsul, el jefe de policías. My name is Zeke Morfin. I'm councilman out of Toppenish, and I'm here with the same concerns that everybody's facing. This is our sister neighborhood, so I've gotten a lot of phone calls as well, a lot of worriness. I am a first generation too. I come from a migrant family. Back in the early 70s, I got to see early 80s, there was raids. We lived next to a hop field, and I got to see, I was a young kid, I couldn't quite understand, but there was people trying to escape out of the ice showing up and climbing hop poles. I truly understood when the fire department would come and actually had to lower them down. That's it kind of sunk into me what was really happening. Now there's quite a concern. The chief of police kind of, I had a question, but he kind of already answered, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And the question I kind of had was, is the ICE officials or ICE agents, are they notifying the police departments in their jurisdiction? I think you answered the question, no. And one second question to that is, can the police department create some kind of bridge communication back to the community to inform them that they are around these areas? Thank you.
I received the information yesterday, much like many of you. I learned about it on Facebook. So they don't communicate with us, and I don't think that they will. I think they know about the state laws, and from what I've seen, I haven't seen a jurisdiction in the state say that they're going to comply. So I think they know where we all stand on this, and that that's not our role. I don't think they're willing to cooperate with us.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Doy gracias a Dios por la oportunidad que me está dando de estar aquí con ustedes y también agradecerles a ustedes por tener un gran corazón en colaborar con la comunidad. Eso es maravilloso. Demostrar a ustedes que no están contra la comunidad, sino que estamos luchando juntos. Y eso significa que ustedes tienen un buen liderazgo. Así es que yo soy ciudadano de acá de Sunnyside desde el 85, así es que tenemos experiencia de cómo esta ciudad ha ido creciendo a través de nuestros hispanos, de nuestros americanos. Somos una familia y debemos de protegernos y ayudarnos. Sabemos que las leyes a veces no trabajan a nuestro favor, pero también nosotros tenemos que manejarnos para demostrar lo que nos afecta y lo que no. Así es que gracias por el apoyo, pero una de las cosas que yo no sabía de esta información que iba a haber ahora. Entonces, necesitamos tener una conexión con nuestra gente, decirles, miren, está pasando esto, necesitamos dejarnos saber uno a otro. Yo trabajo en la labor, pero también soy representante de la mesa directiva de la escuela de PAC. Así es que ahí en PAC tenemos información sobre estos temas y a veces información de otros temas que informamos a nuestros padres migrantes. Así es que me gustaría tener un contacto con ustedes y así trabajar juntos para informar a nuestros hispanos de cómo ayudarnos y cuidarnos también. Y también dejarnos saber a nosotros los hispanos que también tenemos responsabilidades de mostrar cosas de calidad, porque a veces trabajamos en diferencias. Pero quiero agradecerles por su gran liderazgo, de veras los aprecio y pues me gustaría que me dieran información para poder apoyar a nuestros hispanos que no tienen documentos. Gracias a ellos tenemos el pan de cada día y gracias a ellos también Sunnyside está creciendo y tenemos buenos resultados, pero necesitamos mantenernos juntos. Así es que muchas gracias y pues me gustaría tener con la mesa de ustedes información de cómo ayudarnos. Y soy un padre migrante también, que gracias a Dios a través del tiempo he legalizado, pero me ofrezco de voluntario para ayudar a nuestros papás. Muchísimas gracias.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you.
So just to briefly summarize his question, he's grateful for the fact that we were able to stay up here today. But he would like to have a information to be able to communicate to those who would need that information of what kind of activities are going on. And I think the manager addressed that briefly. We're going to try to get some information, a website, a Facebook site, or something like that, where we can keep people up to date on what's happening.
Ujú. Sí, vamos a trabajar más en esas líneas de comunicación. Como dijo el manejador de la ciudad hace un poquito, esto sucedió en su momento muy rápido porque de los hechos de ayer, pero vamos a tratar de establecer esas líneas de comunicación. Yo me aseguro que esto no va a ser la única vez o la última vez que vamos a tener estos foros para la comunidad, especialmente cuando vamos a seguir trabajando con organizaciones en nuestra comunidad de cómo informarles de los de hechos o de sus derechos durante estos tiempos. So, no va a ser la última vez y vamos a trabajar para fortalecer estos medios de comunicación con la comunidad. So, más por venir, ¿ok?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Buenas tardes. Estoy un poco chaparra. Ahora sí. Mi nombre es Cristina González. My name is Cristina González and I'm from Yakima, Washington. He sido activista por más de 25 años. So I've been working in activism for over 25 years. And my comment today is more of a comment, more of a para agarrar conciencia. Okay. So the comments that Emily had for you today are very important comments, very important questions for our community. And you answered them. But you answer them in English. And I'm pretty sure that I look around the room and not everybody here speaks English. And they needed that information in Spanish. Not to mention that you're live streaming and probably a good majority of those individuals are also only Spanish speaking individuals. Today, your press conference was made only for you all and to be live streamed, but you work for the constituents of this city. And so you should make a press conference where every constituent of your city is able to hear, to be here present and to speak their voice. You shouldn't be just reading their messages. You should be hearing them. And I'm not like como regañándolos, no es un regaño, pero si no venemos personas como yo que tenemos el privilegio de hablar y decir estas cosas, pues no se va a escuchar, right? Now is the time to use our privilege to stand up for our community and to fight together as whole. Okay? Ese era mi comentario. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, good job.
Gloria Ibáñez, with el Sol de Yakima. Le voy a pedir a la concejal si me ayuda a traducir. I'm Gloria Ibáñez with el Sol de Yakima. I was asking the council member to help me for translation for the people. En la conferencia de prensa que se mandó en Sunnyside el día de ayer, mencionaron que según fuentes, ustedes habían tenido contacto de que ICE estaba enfocando solamente en personas de carteles o de pandillas de Venezuela. ¿Han sabido más acerca de las dos personas que fueron detenidas el día de ayer? ¿Saben qué pasó con estas personas?
Mike, did you catch that, or I can translate it back?
Yeah, no, and that they're focusing on, specific type of individuals. I was a journalist for many years and have a lot of contacts within law enforcement. So what I've been told, and of course, I'm not going to reveal my sources because you know why. But that's what I've been told is that, these are very targeted operations, and the individuals that I talked to were very hesitant about using the word raid. I mean, at least at this point. And I will say it's a fluid situation. So, I think directives can come from the federal government at any time. And that was a conversation yesterday as things were being monitored on social media. So, and I think we're going to need some grace as we go through this process of, information is going to come fast and quickly. Yesterday was really a case of what I was getting calls and I was seeing on social media is that, our police officers were out there working with ICE because I think identifiable, they were wearing police uniform. It said police on them. So, that was a concern for me. And even some of the rhetoric that I was seeing online was, there was an individual that I replied to a comment that he made. He said, you see, the city set you guys all up. And I said, that was an irresponsible statement. So things like that as they perpetuate. And again, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have this press conference was to say, look, regardless of the rhetoric, no matter what you're hearing online, our message is consistent. Our police officers' behavior is going to be consistent. The message that's coming out of my office is consistent. Are we going to need some grace? Absolutely. I was talking to my new friend in the back that, some of the messaging could have been nuanced differently. Of course, this is a fluid situation for everybody. It's emotional. But the main thing I wanted to get to the public is, look, we're going to do everything to keep our community safe. Our officers aren't going to be a part of raids. They're not going to be a part of assisting. And if anybody tells you different, it's a mentirosa. It's not true. No es la verdad. We're going to make mistakes. But we're going to stand on the principles of trust, inclusivity, and working with our community. And again, Ms. Gonzalez, I agree with you. It was fast and fluid. I decided to have this press conference yesterday and we couldn't find a translator, but I'm 1000% with you. We've got to be more inclusive in the process. And that's something that I'm really trying to be intentional about. And in this particular instance, you'll never hear me make an excuse, but I'm with you. And that's something, as in 2025, we're working on it. And I don't want to try to give the impression that, I've done anything differently than other administrators, but I think that I've really tried to be intentional about including our Hispanic and Latino community in the process. No other administrator has, really tried to build that bridge. I love the Latino community, and, when you see the human element of what's happening out here, it's so easy for the keyboard warriors to get on there and say all these different things, but we see the human element of it. And that's heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, regardless of whatever political spectrum you're on, and I think we're in a time where people are emboldened to say things that you would say, wow, I can't believe they would say that. And it's shocking. But again, from a city perspective, I want people to know that our position isn't going to waver. Things are fluid. We may say some things that are wrong at times, but give us a little grace. We're fighting for you. We're trying to work as hard as we can to bring stability to this community, because the directives coming from this new administration, it has a ripple effect. Every action has a reaction. And in a community of our size, it has real ramifications. People don't go to school. People don't come to work. People don't come to the stores. And we're already in a financial crisis. So, I say to the president, this is the reality on the ground in a community of 20,000 people. It has real effects. This isn't a game. So, let me get off my soapbox, because, if I make mistakes along the way, I'll be the first one to admit it. And we could do things better, but I'm always going to try to be on the side of right. So give me a little grace. Everybody can, people will know you can come to my office. I've opened the door to a lot of people that weren't happy with me. And we come to an agreement of, let's try to, because ultimately we want to run the city the best that we can. And I want to have the vision of these council members who entrust me to work, on their behalf. Because, it's really their vision I'm trying to execute and stay in line. So anyhow, forgive me for rambling, but you caught me kind of on you touched a nerve there.
Thank you. I have another question for you. Tengo otra pregunta para usted. Estas fueron dos detenciones que se hicieron. La semana pasada también hubo una conferencia de prensa y quisiera saber si hay un miedo en la comunidad, en las escuelas, en las empresas, si ese miedo lo están externando los ciudadanos a las autoridades de Sunnyside, porque una de las cosas que comentaron a los medios fueron 2 detenciones solamente. Entonces quisiera yo contestar a esas personas como medio que nos dijeron que solamente eran 2 detenciones, estábamos haciendo una cobertura grande, pero fue en el estacionamiento de Fiesta Foods, fue algo diferente. Entonces quisiera usted comentar al respecto si la comunidad, miembros de la comunidad están llegando a las autoridades diciendo tal vez no queremos ir a la escuela, no queremos tal vez ir al trabajo. ¿Ya se está sintiendo ese temor en una semana? Esa es mi pregunta.
Yeah, she's asking if I entiendo el español, but since I started, she's asking if you've heard of any other from any other entity within the community, if that's the schools, if that's business members speaking of their employees, or hearing from their employees speak of just heightened fear of coming to work, of parents sending their kids to school, and she's asking that because she's been having questions and she would like to use her platform to speak out.
Yes, I have been. So I have a good friend who owns several businesses in town, and he's saying, his employees are feeling scared. And he also has connections within the dairy industry, and he is also hearing that some employees aren't coming to work. So there certainly is a real fear there. I've spoken to some of my contacts within the school district. And this was as early as Thursday or Friday. When was Unido's meeting? Was that Thursday?
Thursday.
And that was something that was expressed. So yeah, there definitely, at least within my sphere, that's what I'm hearing, is that there have been ripple effects and there is real fear. And the interesting part is even amongst documented residents, because I think the natural fear is that indiscriminately, because of either skin color or, there is that fear, you know, and it's just a real thing. And that's something that people don't take into account. Sometimes they're keyboard warriors or they live somewhere else and they don't have the diversity that we have. So, you know, when you don't have that lived experience, you don't understand it. And when you live in Sunnyside and you know, nearly 9 out of our 10 of our residents are Latino, there are so many connections, whether there are undocumented residents or documented residents, they're intertwined within the fabric of our economy, our culture, our families. So, you know, for us, we don't distinguish that way. And I'm getting a little bit off track, but to get back to your question, yes, absolutely. I'm hearing that.
I think if I may step in, I think that this type of reaction is natural. People speak, they're concerned. And this doesn't just, you know, we think of, you know, undocumented workers as the other part, somebody that's not us, but that's really not true. This affects our neighbors. This affects our friends. This affects even family members, because folks come into the United States, okay, whether they're documented or not, they tend to fall in love, they get married, they start families. Now you've got a undocumented parent and a documented parent, and this is going to happen. Can this split up a family? Is there going to be a family all of a sudden without a mother at the house? Is there going to be a father who's no longer at the house because he's been taken out? And we know these people. These are people we work with. These are people we shop with. These are people we speak to every day. And so this is something that concerns all of us. We don't want to see families torn apart. You know, it's really easy to be cold-hearted when you don't know any of the folks involved. But, you know, for all of us up here today, these are folks that we know that we're talking about. Okay, these are perhaps friends. And so we don't want to see their lives destroyed either. And so the fear is normal and it's to be expected. And one of the reasons we're up here today is to try to reassure people that the city of Sunnyside, at least, is not going to be your enemy in this. We are not coming out after you. We are not chasing you down. It will not be a Sunnyside police officer knocking on your door, checking your immigration status. That is not our role. Whether it's at the state level or whether it's at the federal level, we don't have that role. And on a personal level, we don't want to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Herminia Esqueda. I'm a resident of Sunnyside, Washington. I'm also a multicultural coordinator for the Northwest District of the Church of the Nazarene and a pastor. I'm also the chair of the Washington State Latino Leadership Network. And my question to you, similar to the question that was given earlier, is how can we be proactive? What guidance are you giving city employees in how they address the public? How can city spaces be safe spaces for our entire community? And two-part, how can our faith leaders receive guidance from you? What guidance will you provide for them so that our worshiping spaces are also safe spaces for our entire community, which we know includes mixed documentation? And we need guidance on how we can protect those spaces so that our communities feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, counselors. Anybody want to wade into that? I have a perspective, but I think again, I would love you on the coalition as the groups that come to the table. So would certainly like that group to form shortly after. So when this meeting breaks, all the folks that want to be involved in that process, let's do a huddle and let's figure out when our first meeting is going to be, because I like to get right to work. So counselors, anybody want to chime in on that?
Yes, all I would say on this one is this is very much a work in progress. And so, you know, to answer your questions, we have to get started on this. I mean, the event that happened yesterday was just 24 hours ago. And so it's something that we're starting to think about. A week ago, when the city manager first posted on his blog that City of Sunnyside's not involved, there was nothing happening in Sunnyside at that point. Now, all of a sudden there is. And so we are trying to figure out an appropriate response. How can we make people feel comfortable? I did see a post on Facebook yesterday where the city is calling these events only so that ICE can come in and check everybody's status and that sort of stuff. That is absolutely not true. And so we want to make people feel comfortable in our public spaces. We want to make people feel safe in our public spaces. We want to make people feel safe in schools and in churches and wherever they gather. We don't want people to feel threatened. What really bothered me was that this is happening in the parking lot of a grocery store yesterday. You should feel safe when you're out buying food for your family. You should not have to work to live in fear. So we do need to formulate a response, and we will be working on that and come up with an appropriate response. And we do need your input. So please be part of it.
Thanks.
I'll add to that too. So, estábamos hablando que aquí hay miembros de la organización Wizen. Cristina alzó su mano. So, ella es un buen recurso para to connect with, para conectarse después de la junta. Wizen lo que tiene is they have rapid responders. So, if you want to sign up to get a training to be a rapid responder, también Cristina can give you a little bit more information about that and how that works. I think it's going to be really important for all of us to be trained on how do we come together as a community and start and figure out how we can continue protecting each other. So I do echo the mayor. It is a work in progress on the city side, but there are organizations that have been doing the work, that have been prepping people in community on how to be responsive to any of these potential issues. I mean, right now we're seeing it a lot more heightened. But I will let, the subject matter experts respond and fill you in more on that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Good afternoon, John Franklin, KIMA. Thank you for hosting this press conference. One of the first sentences in your press release, Mr. Gonzalez, was asking for people to remain calm. You spoke a little bit about people not going into work or not going to school, but how else can people remain calm?
Well, I think we've got to get information to them, and I'm glad the stakeholders are here that want to be a part of that information gathering and dissemination, where I think the next step for us is to be that conduit to the community, as be unbiased and neutral, but also be a place where people can get the correct information, because I think the misinformation is what leads to the fear. So if we can provide resources on legal resources, what the process is if you're approached by an ICE agent, these things, we certainly have to be careful we can't give legal advice, but we can certainly give information and be that conduit. And I think the other thing is, I just want to make it clear that Chief Lehman's group is not involved in the targeted operation. And because I was seeing that on social media, because there was real confusion, because their uniforms looked somewhat similar to ours, but they weren't our guys.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned, the Sunnyside Police won't be conducting any of these. Earlier today, Sheriff Udell did a Facebook post, sort of echoing that a little bit. I was wondering, can you get specific on what organizations would be doing this? Are there any other than ICE that you're aware of?
I don't know, Chief. Would you happen to know that?
I think the group that's doing this is HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations. New to me, I learned yesterday from the video that his vest said Police ERO. I had to look that up, and it said Enforcement Removal Operations. So that's a new division within HS. Well, I won't say it's new because I've never heard of it, but that's a division of HSI. So that's apparently at least one of the gentlemen yesterday that was working as a federal officer was with that group.
And then one last question. Do you take any direction regarding this from the governor's office or from somewhere in DC? Do you take any direction at all for how to handle these situations?
I've been in contact. So yesterday, I'm also on the Commission for Hispanic Affairs. So I've reached out to the executive director, who's been in contact with the governor's office and the AGO. So they're going to give us some guidance at some point today. So it's a new administration, so they're working out some of the kinks, but we should have some information from the governor's office, because ultimately, they're the authority within the state. So my intention is to work very closely with the governor's office, but I can't say that I've had a conversation with anybody there at this point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Tell people where they can view this video?
Sure. Este programa es en YouTube y tú puedes encontrar en nuestro sitio de web y en otras partes. Can we find it or no?
El video está en YouTube, en el sitio de web, bajo Newsflash, está en un artículo, el link está incluido ahí y también nos puede mandar un correo electrónico o un mensaje por texto también al número 509-790-9729 y le puedo mandar el link de la grabación.
Since the question was asked in English, can we answer it in English as well?
This video is available online on our YouTube channel. It's linked on Facebook as well as our website under Newsflash. It's the first article that says press conference. The link is on the second sentence there. You can also email us or text us at 509-790-9729 and I can send the link.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jasper Sundin, Yakima Herald Republic. I wanted to ask a follow-up to what my colleague Gloria asked. I know you said these were, as far as you know, targeted raids connected to criminal activity. Are you specifically referring to the people who were detained when you say that they're connected to criminal activity, or you mentioned Venezuelan gangs in the press release?
Yeah,
do you not know about these specific?
Yeah, the only thing that I was told is the message that these individuals wanted to send was that these were targeted because there was a lot of narratives online going about raids, and making sure that now the caveat always is the directive comes from Washington, D.C. So whether there's raids that will ultimately happen, at least in Washington State, at this time, it appears the directive are targeted. And I was surprised to hear that Venezuelan gangs too are permeating across Eastern Washington. So that certainly seems to be something that's a reality right now, and cartel members. So those two were the focus, in terms of, and again, like the release said, what I was told is that there was mistaken identity with those individuals. And again, it's fluid information, from a trusted source. Ultimately, what comes out of that, I don't know. But I think the overarching message that my sources wanted to give to me was that currently these are targeted, so if you want to get the message to your community that these raids, I mean, at least right now, don't look like they're going to happen. But, I was a journalist at one time. Words can get spun. What will ultimately happen, I don't know. But, that's Sunday. This is Monday. And, this administration appears to be very, very aggressive in their actions and their rhetoric. So that is something that we're going to keep our eye on. So, I mean, that's probably the best way I can answer that, Jasper, without, being an agent myself. I'm
putting you on the spot here. I know.
No, and I understand, I've been on the other side of it. So totally, and I totally know where you're coming from. And I just feel like my role as city managers is to try to keep calm and, not let things get out of control in terms of a narrative that isn't necessarily true. So,
okay.
Jasper, I'm glad you asked that question. Talk about misconstruction, and there was a comment yesterday that I saw on Facebook because of the generalization of these target lists that it's a directive from what that are directives from Washington, D.C. So about the two people, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't know any additional information, because what was happening online is that they're taking that piece of information and then they're right away correlating the individuals, or specifically these individuals that were connected to what happened yesterday, and then they're labeling them or they're targeting them when that's just not the case, because we do not know any additional information about them. So we just want to make that very clear. When I speak about scapegoating or profiling, those are the very, very tricky lines that we're treading, and how careful we have to be, because we're not trying to generalize and put folks that have been detained or arrested into one bucket, or begin compartmentalizing without having the facts in front of us.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we wanted to check is, I mean, I know there's overarching strategies and then there are these particular individuals who were detained and we want to make sure whatever we do or don't know about them is being accurately reported. So that's why I was asking if you know anything more about these specific individuals, or you may not, which I would understand because you do not work for the Department of Homeland Security. So I really wanted to check. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'll translate for myself. So my name is Aldel Ramirez. I work with Labor and Industries. I'm here today specifically the Office of Community Relations. And since you guys brought up a little bit about the state, mi nombre es Aldel Ramírez, trabajo con el Departamento de Labor e Industria, en la Oficina de Relaciones Comunitarias. A couple of things. At the state level, I just want to reiterate that as far as labor and industries or our state agency, worker rights are not affected by what's happening with immigration enforcement. People who work within our state still have access to all worker rights without concern of legal status. Para la gente que está trabajando en nuestro estado, quiero que sepan que sus derechos laborales no están afectados por estas acciones de inmigración. En el estado todos tenemos derechos bajo las leyes del estado y protecciones, así de que no importa su estatus migratorio, el estado no pregunta, no pide y no colabora con inmigración en nada. Así de que por favor siéntanse seguros de buscar apoyo si sus derechos o algún problema surge en sus trabajos o en sus lugares de negocio. Estamos aquí para servirles aún. So I wanted to make that clear. Another thing I do want to share quickly is that this morning, Bob Ferguson, Governor Bob Ferguson, signed a executive order creating a rapid response team to support children facing deportation or children being left behind by parents being deported. Esta mañana el gobernador Bob Ferguson firmó un decreto ejecutivo donde está formando un grupo de respuesta rápida para apoyar a los niños o a las familias que tengan niños que son víctimas de deportación sus padres o que se quedan sin padres por causa de deportación. Todo esto está pasando ahorita mismo, se comunicó esta mañana, así de que busquen la información por favor en línea y infórmense sobre esos procesos. So anyway, I just wanted to come up and share some of that because I know that you guys are all speaking at the municipal level, but I want people to be assured that at the state level, we are also trying to, get our bearings and see what it is that, how we should proceed with this because none of us can interfere with federal agencies. However, it does not mean that at the state level, people's rights are affected or that they do not no longer have access to services that we provide or benefits that people are entitled to inside of our state. So that's why I wanted to come up here and share with you guys. Solamente quiero comentarles de que sus derechos aquí a nivel estatal no están siendo afectados. Los servicios que ofrecemos como el Estado aún están accesibles a la gente sin importar su estatus migratorio y los beneficios que se ofrecen a los cuales tienen derecho aún siguen vigentes. Así que nada de eso va a cambiar. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And make sure that we get your contact information before you go. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Hi, Maria Fernandez with EA. I just wanted to make an announcement. We are working currently, and we just like Vicky mentioned earlier, in the press conference, we are working with the ACLU to provide a workshop on February 8th. 2 workshops, actually, one in the morning from 10 to 12. They are for service providers, organizations, advocates, churches who want to better understand what their rights are as organizations, as leaders within the community, and how to advise not only their staff, but also the community that comes to their premises and how to know their rights. And then in the afternoon from 1 to 3, we are offering a Know Your Rights workshop to the community at large in Spanish about how to know your rights. We are also offering that part through Zoom so that people could feel comfortable in attending the workshop, but not necessarily in person. Para la señora que estaba preguntando si va a haber recursos para conocer sus derechos, el 8 de febrero a la 1 hasta las 3 vamos a tener un taller en conociendo sus derechos. Esperamos su participación, pero si no pueden estar en persona por caso su seguridad está a riesgo, también lo vamos a ofrecer en Zoom. Okay, gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
Once again, Ezekiel Morfin, one last comment. Thank you. We're in legislative session right now, and we have a representative right now that could actually advocate for us. I really feel what's really happening to our communities. There was actually a representative who verbally commented about it's not their focus. This state is their focus. Well, excuse me, we need to send a letter out. These legislators, our senators, they got to send it back to Washington D.C. to our new administration and say, hey, this is affecting negatively to our communities, local communities. So I urge everybody right now, their legislation, go visit them. I got to visit in about a couple weeks. Go visit and call them, email them, and let them know that this is taking a bad toll, a bad effect into our communities. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Anybody else?
Sorry, no, you're trying to wrap up. Again, Cristina Gonzalez, also on Ezequiel's point. I also work with Latino Community Fund of Washington, and on February 7th, we will be taking youth to a legislative session. We will be taking them to the governor's office to meet with their representatives. So if you have youth, si tienen jóvenes que quieren hablar con sus representantes, el día 7 de febrero vamos a llevar nosotros todos los jóvenes que quieran ir y los vamos a presentar con sus representantes porque es importante que comenzamos desde los jóvenes hasta arriba, ¿verdad? Y los representantes como ustedes están ahí para trabajar para nosotros. So that's important. Also, I just wanted to touch on one comment. When, I'm sorry, I don't know your name because I live in Yakima. But when you made the comment, they and us, it's not they and us, it's we. We are immigrants. We are one. So it's not them against us, it's us. This affects us as a whole. We are one. Somos Latinos todos. Todos somos inmigrantes.
And that's where I was hoping to go with that. It's easy to make these comments when it's they, but when you realize that it's us, that
Yeah.
we're all affected
Todos-
by it.
todos
That's where I
somos
was
uno.
trying to go with that. And if that was unclear, I apologize. But yeah, you can make blanket comments when it's somebody else who's not you and you don't know anybody in the community. But we know each other. We live together. We're neighbors. We see each other. And so these are affecting all of us because we are part of the community. That's where I was hoping to go with that. And if that was at all vague, I apologize.
And then my next would be Mike. I mean, I know you're on the Commission of Hispanic Affairs. I work very close with them as well. And so I would just urge that when you are publicizing information, cuando vas a publicar información que esté seguro, these individuals were not from Venezuela. I cannot give information, but I can tell you I know this for a fact, and they have not been released. They continue to be detained. So estas personas no son de Venezuela y tampoco los han soltado. Ellos siguen siendo detenidos. And for them to say that they are targeted raids, well, targeted towards the immigrant community, I would say, because no sé cuántas personas de Venezuela viven in Granger. And I had an individual who was in Granger because they were knocking on doors. So nomás clarificando.
You got it. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Dora Barreras, and I work for the Sunnyside School District. I just want to give information to the parents that are here that I got the little red card, the little famous red card that a lot of families may not know what it's for. Voy a repetir esto para atrás en español para la gente que está aquí presente. Quizás no hablan en inglés, pero vengo de parte, mi nombre es Dora Barreras y trabajo por el Distrito Escolar de Sunnyside. Y traigo las tarjetitas que dice sus derechos. Si llega a pasar, los llegan a parar y preguntarles información a ustedes. Aquí afuera vamos a estar yo y mi compañera de la escuela dando esas tarjetitas. So, es lo único que quería presentar esta tarde. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Dora.
Appreciate you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katy Padilla, Executive Director of Nuestra Casa here in Sunnyside, and I wanted to say thank you for all of you up here today who have shown an interest and made an effort to really validate the fears of our community. And also to remind you all that Nuestra Casa has also been in this area for over 15 years doing this work. So I'd just like to share that we are also available for community. And folks can reach out to us for resources. And as I listen, I like to listen and observe. I noticed someone up here very quiet. Mr. Galvan, can you share with us how we can believe that you back the city's message based on what I've seen on Facebook and your support of the administration? Can you share with folks here?
I truly support my community. There's plenty of people here that are here to work, that want to do right, that want to raise a family. My parents there. I was born in Mexico, so I'm here for the community. That I support the administration. I support that they want a safe community, just like everybody else, right? I mean, I have kids. Everybody here has kids. I see the different struggles, right? We just had a shooting not too long ago. It's pretty bad out there. So I think if we could come
Excuse
together.
me, but I think as you mentioned that shooting, that's also perpetuating the idea that has been growing in the media about our community. So that is why I asked that. I think you're tying that right now to this is not okay. It's not helping us feel calm. And I would like to know how you're actively also showing support to community, like you showed to the administration.
I mean, I'm supportive. I'm here. There's a lot of misinformation that tries to go on social media, on WhatsApp Sunnyside, and I don't approve it. Right? I'm one of the moderators, and if I were to approve it, I think there would be a lot more fear in the community. I try to verify before approving anything. Just last week, there was a video that tried to circulate where it wasn't an accurate video of current times. It might have been a year old, 2 years old. So I took it down. So I'm there. A lot of the information that a lot of organizations that want to put information on there, I approve it, right? Just so they can know their rights, so you guys can know where to go, what to do, like the little red cards that the school district Dora is going to be handing out. So there is a lot of misinformation that's trying to get on there, and I'm trying to filter the bad stuff.
And I just wanted to make sure to hear from you, because as Mayor Borsman shared that on a personal level, you all don't want this for our community. I just wanted to hear from you that you too feel that way, and that we're not just making a blanket statement.
No, I do feel that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the media or Emily, how did I know you had one more question? I'm only
It's kind of standard.
I-
So Emily Goodell with Apple Valley News now again. I did want to clarify. So when Christina came up here, there were two separate incidents that I've seen that happened in Sunnyside yesterday. There was the one where there was a couple with a little kid in the back seat who got pulled over on their way from Granger to Sunnyside. And that's the one where you can see them really up close and they're recording from inside the car talking to the agent who says, I apologize, you fit a description and that's why we pulled you over. And then there's the other one, which was the one in the Fiesta Foods parking lot where you could see the woman who was being taken away in handcuffs. And so I just wanted to clarify, when you say that the people were released, were you talking about that first incident or the second incident?
I didn't know about the Granger incident, so that I can't speak to that. My perception was it was somehow connected to that, and look, I don't want this to turn into an I got you moment. We got the city administrator. Like, I've been on that side of the aisle, so I know the game. And I'm not saying that's what you're trying to do, Emily. But the overarching message that I've received, and again, information was fluid yesterday. I mean, I was receiving dozens of calls from different people. And, if I err, and I err on the side of trying to do the best I can for this community. So, I mean, I can't necessarily speak to all that. I mean, I think what we have to do from this point forward is, look, we're all pulling on the same rope. And I can tell you, George is 1,000% for this community. Vicky is 1,000% for this community. Mayor is 1,000% for this community. They all come from different perspectives, but these three individuals, they're all fighting for the people, as am I. And I'm proud of Sunnyside because we're the only flippin' city in this entire state that's actually taken a stand. Will we make mistakes along the way? Absolutely. But again, we're going to err on the side of right. And I appreciate the questions because you're a good journalist. You're a really good journalist. And it's been good to see you, when I first saw you on there, to you doing your investigative reports, you're fantastic. So I get it. Like, I've been there. You got to ask the tough questions. But, I kind of want to pivot from like, oh, what happened in the heat of the firefight? It's like, from this point forward, let's work with let's work with the churches. Let's work with the groups. Let's work with the ACLU so we can get the proper information. Let's work with Cadena. Let's work as a community because, there's going to be mistakes made along the way. And I'll get off my soapbox, but I think that the message today is unity. It's support of the community. There's things we can't control from the feds, but what we control is our own actions. And then let's come together and get that right information. If I got it wrong, I apologize. I wish we would have had a translator here. We didn't have the time to do it. And, but we're being intentional about it. We're trying to be inclusive. And, as long as I'm city manager here, I'm always going to try to put the community first. And like I said, give me some grace. I'm going to make mistakes along the way, but I feel like we have an amazing council, a great community. And, I think the feds coming to town, we're an easy target. We're 90% Latino. We have a big ag community. We're not naive enough to know that we don't have undocumented immigrants here. It seems a little unfair to me to come to town and we can handle our own business. If we have criminals in town, we have a great police chief. We can handle our own business. We never said that we're not going to focus on stopping crime. We are. But we don't need people coming into town creating havoc, fear for the sake of political agendas, and that's, that's where, and I don't want this to be political, but it is, so anyway, I'm going to stop there before I get in trouble with my bosses and, call it good. And I want them to have the opportunity to, because it's not about me, it's about the community. It's about, it's really about today. I wanted them to have the opportunity to speak. So.
Yeah, and Emily, just on that note, just to reinforce what I said earlier, fact checking is going to be everything, right? And we didn't get it right, but we commit to making sure that we just do a much better job moving forward because we know how much is at stake. So fact checking everything is definitely going to be our number one priority moving forward. And there's this really great book that I read by Don Miguel Ruiz, right? It talks about the forum agreements based on Aztec teachings, and he says, one of them is being impeccable with your word. Now more than ever, we have to be intentional with everything we say and how we say it, because we're trying to do a lot of good, and within that we have to make sure that every step we take and every decision we make is not going to further harm the community that we're trying to protect. So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify also, just for the record, that this was absolutely not intended to be a gotcha moment. I spent a whole bunch of hours
and I didn't
watching
think
these videos
so.
on
No.
Facebook, and I too wanted to fact check and make sure because I wanted to know if it was 2 cases of mistaken identity.
No,
or
and I
one,
didn't
just
think,
for
and forgive me for
Yeah.
even insinuating.
no for
Because it was
Like I
two
said,
different incidents. Yeah. So thank you for.
And for us too, it's very difficult to get information from the federal government about these incidents. So if you have a connection and you have other information that we don't have, that's why I just wanted to clarify
Absolutely.
that type of information.
No, and I respect you as a journalist immensely. So forgive me if I gave that overture. So that it wasn't intended on my side either. So thanks.
I did have one last question, and then I promise I'll be done.
Sure.
The question is, I've had some comments and some people reach out to me from the community, and they asked me a question, and I actually wasn't sure how to answer them. So I wanted to ask you, is Sunnyside, you've said that you won't cooperate with, ICE in a lot of these efforts that they're trying to do, or at least not go alongside them on these. That lack of cooperation, does that constitute Sunnyside being a sanctuary city or a welcoming city? And, if not, is that something that you guys guys would be considering pursuing as you work to get this team of community partners together.
I think I can speak to that. Sunnyside has never been classified as a sanctuary city. I think it was mistakenly placed on a city website or a state website that we were a sanctuary city. And I remember some council members objecting to that or some community members objecting to that. But council has never voted, to my knowledge, at least in the last 10 years, to have Sunnyside be a sanctuary city. The discussion hasn't come before council in the last 2 or 3 years, and so I don't know what council is going to do moving forward. But at the same time, that does not mean that we are against our community members. I think as council members, we are all more loyal to our community than we are to anything else. And our community is extremely important to us, or we would not have run for office. And if our community is not important to us, we should not be in office. So therefore, we take our role very seriously. We take our community very seriously. We want to see not just the community prosper, but everybody in it. So that's what we're trying to make sure happens. And living in fear is not a good way to prosper. So we want to make sure that you're not living in fear in Sunnyside as well. So, and with that, I don't know. I have another commitment. I have to go. This came up very quickly yesterday, and so I'm going to be stepping out. You guys are welcome to continue as long as you want, but I do need to go.
Absolutely, Mayor.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariadna Costa, and I am from Silla, Washington. I'm a concerned constituent. And the only thing that I would like to share is that I go ahead and I started researching. I went to the Mexican embassy, and they have all the procedures that we should take as a community. It's very well explained in there, so I don't want to talk about it because we should do our research so that way we don't say what we don't want to say. Thank you so much for giving us the current information and taking the time to do it for all of us. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you afterwards if you just to make sure if you have anything to share.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, we have anybody else?
Hi, my name is Jasmine Martinez. I'm a resident of Sunnyside. Has the city of Sunnyside teamed up with the school district of Sunnyside to see about the kids that maybe or will be affected by this? Have you guys decided to group a rapid response for what if a child at school gets home off the bus, walks in, no parents? What is the city of Sunnyside doing for those kids? I know CPS will get called, but what is the city of Sunnyside going to do to those kids that are affected by this?
That's a good question.
Because
And
I don't see Maxwell here and he's our superintendent, so.
yeah, and I've talked to Ryan a little bit about it, but not much. So let me figure that out. And when, can you give me your contact info before we leave? Because that's a good question. And I don't want to say it's outside our scope because we could always be a conduit, but Chief can answer some of this.
Unfortunately, this is handled by the federal government, but at a local level, if we handle a police call that may have an effect on kids, we have an avenue to notify the school district so the counselor can be in contact with those kids. So if a kid is a witness to a domestic at home or mom or dad gets arrested for DUI on Saturday night, the school will be notified Monday morning to reach out to those kids. In this particular situation, I'm positive the federal government doesn't have a way to notify the school. But if we were called there, we would probably bring the kids here, put them in our break room, which we've done a lot of times, put on some cartoons, give them some coloring books until CPS can figure out where they're going to place them, typically with a family member is what CPS does.
Yeah, but what if that child doesn't have extended family? You know what I mean? I know we have a local CPS office here, right?
CPS takes care of
But
placement.
yes, but there could be due to racial profiling, let's just say open racism. We live in an era now where it's okay to be openly racist, right? Racially profile people. What happens when our local CPS office gets overwhelmed? How is the city going to step in and help with these kids?
Well, it's a CPS role, so they're responsible for placement of kids. We don't have the avenues or the resources to be placing kids. The CPS has to do a background check and everything else. They have their own policies. If we start doing that, we can put ourselves at liability. It's a CPS role. We would have to turn the kids over to CPS.
Okay.
Counselor, do you want to add anything to that? Or
All I can say right now is that that is a really great comment, and I think all of that adds to the planning that we have to do on our end. So I think that's our responsibility to figure out what is within our rules and our parameters. And speaking about sanctuary cities, creating more of these safe spaces, it's imperative that we begin now with establishing a plan and a process, and including other stakeholders in our community, because the school district is very much a part of that. They handle our families, they handle our families' children's, they handle your nieces and nephews. So that's definitely going to be part of the conversation, and I commit to pulling in the school district in the planning that's going to happen here as soon as we probably all walk out of the door with next steps. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, very well said, Counselor. With that being said, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. And do you want to say something? Let's make this the final one, and then we can talk.
I'll make it as quick as possible. My name is Martin Alvarado. I'm a bounty hunter by trade. I've been introduced by my agency. I'm from Seattle. Tacoma called me and told me that as the waves go through, this is the first wave. The second and third is when they're going to hire us. The ICE is going to hire us bounty hunters, and they're going to be giving $1,500 to $1,000 per illegal. How are you going to stop us from coming through? Because we don't have to worry about warrants. We don't really have to follow too many of the laws. And if we're going to be deputized by ICE, we can pretty much do anything we want. They're already going over there and creating the squads as we speak now. That's why they called me. So as soon as I get back with my squad in Tacoma, we will be coming down the state. $1,000 per illegal is a pretty good price. Just to do things that you kind of enjoy. How or what you guys are going to do to stop that? Are you going to pay us more? Are you going to pay us $2,000 to just leave them alone?
I think you should be making those kind of comments. We're going to create panic right now.
I'm not creating panic. I'm trying to give you guys informed of what's going
You're
on.
comparing numbers right now. You shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I'm just stating a fact of what are you guys going to do to stop us from doing our job?
Maybe you shouldn't be doing that job at all.
Why?
We're
What part of illegal don't you understand?
Can't put a price in.
You can put a price on every human being.
Can't.
Every human is worth a dollar amount.
It's not right.
Well, that's not right. That's your problem. If you don't.
All right, so we're gonna have to ask you to stop. You know, and around here we don't refer to people as illegals.
I'm not going to get
they're
politically
human
correct
beings.
because it bothers you guys. Your sensitivity is not our problem.
Well, it is my
Aiding and
it is my
abetting
problem.
Is a problem.
You know what? It is my problem.
Stating to beware because.
Well, it's
they are
time for you to be
hiring
quiet.
Us.
It's time for you to be quiet. It's time for you to be quiet and leave.
Why? Because I'm telling the truth?
Because you don't even have the cojones to wear take off the mask, bro. That's why. Then there you go. You got some? Now get out of here. Take them with you. Goodbye.
Oh, see me again.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Can't wait for that day. Forgive me for that. I didn't want it to end on that note, but you know, one thing we're not going to tolerate is disrespect and ignorance. So anyhow.
Mike, thank you.
One last thing. I'm Counselor Beeler. I didn't like that last comment. We had 5 people up here. They are representing the whole council and the whole city. The fire department, the police department, the city manager, we're here for you guys. And I'm so proud to see everybody in here. It's not just them 5 that were here. There's councilmen here. I'm a councilwoman. I'm a councilman. We all believe in this. We are all here for the people that live here in Sunnyside. So remember that. And again, I thank everybody for showing up. That means you're part of it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor
Councilman.
Biller. Thank you.
Appreciate
for doing that. Thank you, Mike, for handling that. Yeah. That's the type of energy and the type of fear mongering and the type of blatant racism that we are not going to allow in these council chambers. So if anybody's thinking about coming in and trying to do that, it's not going to work. Not here. Okay. And I echo City Manager Mike Gonzalez. doing away with the word illegal. Nobody's illegal. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. So I'm going to leave that there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody, for coming. And Counselor, anybody have anything they want to add? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And if media wants to talk to any of the counselors afterwards, please come up to the mic and you can request them. So thank you.
All of that is